Greetings, folks. I hope you're still hanging in there. If you have been following us all the way through study number 8 to study number 9, I am sure that your life has improved greatly. Your mind has expanded, your vision has cleared, and you're starting to learn the difference between your own thoughts and what people have told you to believe. In that vein, we are going on into study number 9, the title, All of the Seeds That Were Planted. So let's explore what we believe and who we believe, why we believe, so that we can begin to create our own world, to recreate our minds, so that our ability to think, to feel, and to love is clear. This book was written all the way back around the year 2000, so some of the references will talk about the year 2000, but it all still applies today even more. So we begin with the introduction. The winter of 2000 was a long, cold winter with a lot of snow and freezing rain. At night, sometimes there were even fogs. The temperature at times in the northeast were near 0 degrees, and then the next day it would swing upward to the 40s and 50s unexpectedly. I thought that the spring had arrived many times, only to find that as soon as I even thought of putting my heavy coat away, there would be a great snowstorm. The weather has been very unpredictable for several years. Even with its unpredictability, we all still know, deep within the recesses of our heart, the spring is going to come again. Spring will come once again because it always does. After the spring, there's also a glorious summer. During the summer, all of the seeds that were planted during the spring and all of the small green sprouts begin to mature. They ripen and bring forth fruit after their own kind, so to speak. The way that the 4 seasons work are quite miraculous. They provide us with the stages of change that are necessary for the transition from one form or way of being to another. The earth experiences the transitions, and so does every living being, including human beings. Human history can be seen as 4 seasons. There are those who could probably divide it into 5 or 6 or 1,000, but in this case I would like to look at it as 4 seasons. In the beginning, life on this planet was probably most like spring. Remember the wild March winds that used to whip up and usher it in. Long ago the earth was new, everything was being organized, and it was settling in, so to speak. New life and new organisms were jockeying for position. Experiments were going on all over the planet. There were several formations and reformations of all the chemicals and elements on the earth. Various forms of life were being produced. Those who could survive prospered. Others who could not survive passed out of existence and on into the memory of the gene pool. And in the place of being movements, of course, some organisms did survive, of course. The ones who survived began to flourish. They began to prosper and to multiply. The earth was a paradise and food was abundant then. At that time it was summer on earth. Everything was flourishing and prospering, but then something began to happen. The very abundance of food and the skill of the organisms to take advantage of the abundance changed everything. Their ease brought about their destruction. This is always a danger. Most of the organisms had discovered a way to use the sun for energy and nutrition. They were partially photosynthetic. Others had learned how to digest the sulfur and mineral compounds that arose from the earth near fissures, located in the deepest parts of the ocean where volcanic activity took place. This went on for quite some time, but then came the disaster. We began to move out of the summer and into the autumn. Many of the cells were anaerobic. There was not that much oxygen in the air when they were thriving. Their production of oxygen as a waste product of photosynthesis made the level of oxygen in the atmosphere rise. When the oxygen level of this planet rose to just about 21%, almost all of life on this planet died. These cells changed the face of the whole planet because of their air pollution, which in this case was oxygen. Some organisms begin to respire then for the first time and take in oxygen. They were the ones who survived. During this time, there also developed predator organisms and the process of birth. This was the beginning of the winter that we, as a species and the planet, still find ourselves in. The predators were the ones who lived by consuming and by killing others. The shift from photosynthetic organisms to respiring organisms could be compared to the Babylonian myth of the farmer and the herdsman. The organisms that lived off of photosynthesis can be compared to the farmers in the Babylonian myths. The farmers were chosen by the mother goddess and preferred by her instead of the herdsmen. The herdsmen, therefore, were forced to live on the edge of the desert and were only allowed into the settlement during the season when there was no planting. Everything after several generations began to change. The relationship between the herdsmen and the farmers were all but forgotten. The herdsmen were no longer allowed in the city. The desert became a place of evil and demons, and the herdsmen were associated with them. Because of the scarcity and hard living in the desert, they eventually attacked the city, killed the farmers, and possessed the lands themselves. From that time on, the way of gaining abundance became killing and taking what one needed. The city and the farms became a breeding ground and a resource center for predators who were sent out to gather more and more resources for those who they could overwhelm were their targets. The predators won out. With this came the beginning of a winter that we are still partaking of. We have progressed as human beings. We have invented all kinds of new technology, art, and medicine. Every so often people have declared the dawn of the coming of a new humanity, a new age. We continually proclaim that we are a new civilization. One president spoke of being a kinder and gentler America, and that the global village would be like 1,000 points of light before he bombed most of Iraq back into the age of stone and iron. We are talking spring, but we are still living winter. We live in a world where most of the population is starving, or a lot anyway. We have children who are starving in the inner cities with infant mortality rates higher than those in Bangladesh. Billions of people are searching for food in garbage dumps in the overexploited nations of the world. In some countries, the poor children are actually selling their organs for food, while in other places, poor street children are hunted down and their organs harvested for the rich and successful. We are still in winter. The predators still prevail. Spring is coming. Our hope is still here. The light is right there, just beyond the next little hill and within the bosoms of our own selves. The light shines within the heart of any human being who will permit it to do so. This is something that I can feel deep in my heart. It is written in the means of the universe. Spring is coming because all of the new thoughts, ideas, and wonders that will usher in this spring are gushing up like a fountain, spreading throughout the land on the wind like 1,000 seeds. Ideas of love, of truth, of diversity, and of mutual understanding are spreading. Ideas of the appreciation of the self as one is instead of as one achieves are spreading. The knowledge and truth that allow us to reclaim the beauty of the self and to reclaim the stolen stories of humanity are spreading. The desire for diversity, multiculturalism, and pluralism are spreading through the land. Indigenous ways of thinking and being that go beyond dualism into circular thinking, which include dualism, are spreading through the land. The system is trying to co-opt the ideas. It is trying to use them in new consumer-driven markets in order to get us to buy things. Old paradigms that say you are nothing unless you have this possession, drive this type of car, own this type of house, have this type of degree, are disguised as wisdom. The more the wise and loving carriers of the light become strong, the more those who love the darkness try to hold on to the world and to fill it up with more hatred, anger, fear, and envy. Even still, we are coming to the end of the tunnel, and they can do nothing to stop us. The walls of this tunnel through which we travel are ignorance right now, but they need not be. Life on this earth is like being in a tunnel. We're surrounded by darkness on all sides. Instead of finding joy by exploring that darkness, we are taught to fear the darkness and to look down and keep moving forward. We are driven to move forward towards some type of success that will spiral us farther into disillusionment, because as we keep our eyes to the ground, we never notice that we're being moved in circles. What we consider moving forward only serves one purpose. It helps provide an overabundance of cash and resources to those who already have more than they could ever use. We can move forward in the circle so fast sometimes that we don't have the time to look to the side. We cannot stop to explore the darkness that is all around us. It is only in the darkness that we will find ourselves. It is only in the darkness we will find the heart of the human being. The darkness that we have learned to fear is the place of creativity. It is the place where the seed begins to grow. It is the place of warmth and nurturance. After the seed has abided in the darkness for a long period of time, after a while it explodes into the light of life and awareness. Instead of being driven in circles, blindly, pulling some type of wagon or plow, like a pack horse, life should be about moving into the light, moving slowly, taking the time to go off the beaten path ever so often, taking the time to return again as a new creation full of wisdom, gathered in the deep recesses of our hearts and our minds, the wisdom that is gathered in the paradoxes, in the places where our thoughts and ideas about the way we think things are and the way they really are don't match, is what sets us free. The warrior lives in the paradox. The teacher is able to divide the paradox and to put it together again so that the student can understand the true nature of the universe. People of fear have been in charge for quite some time all over the world, and especially in the United States. They have hidden this fear very well. They have, however, been afraid of everything and have covered that fear over with anger and the need to control everything. Every plant, every person, and every animal is feared until it can be controlled. It is easy to learn to live a life of fear that is disguised as one of bravery. At one time, I looked back at my own life several years ago. I noticed that most of my life had not been spent working towards doing what I really wanted. My life had consisted of avoiding everything that was too fearful and difficult. I worked hard at choosing an acceptable path, and even an acceptable persona. I wanted to be cool, because I was afraid of being me. I was afraid that people wouldn't like me if they saw the real me. If they saw the artificial me and didn't accept that person, that would be all right. But I did not know what I would do if they didn't accept the real me. I think that this behavior and the inheritance of that fear was something that I learned from a system, and that I am not very unique in that instance. What I also learned is that the easy path really does lead to destruction. It may not lead to eternal destruction. I'm not sure if it does or not. But it does lead to destruction of the heart and the soul in this world. It leads to dissatisfaction and a boring life. We as a nation have spent most of our time building fences. All of the isms in this land are nothing more than fences to keep us separate from those who are not familiar with us or we are not familiar with. All of the border patrols, all of the missiles and bombers, all of it is to protect ourselves from some type of perceived energy out there. We in the United States, I might even say that we as human beings, however, have never really moved to deal with the real enemy. The enemy is not out there, it is within. The enemy is the fear. It is the guilt. It is the shame and the anger. It is the feeling of inadequacy that has been woven into the very fabric of our beings by those who were supposed to protect us and teach us how to be healthy, free individuals. The water of compassion faces the fear and the pain. She or he conquers the enemy within daily. As the desire to do this moves to the forefront, and as we dedicate ourselves to the building of the self and the strengthening of our character as individuals as well as communities, as we develop the desire to learn about what is in our hearts and who is really out there, spring will return again. You have begun that process. You have begun the inner work of discernment and cleansing. Those who are afraid still holler. They shake with fury. They form political alliances and bribe politicians, but they cannot stop what is coming. What is coming is freedom for all of us, for this nation under God will rise with a new birth of freedom, and its government of the people, by the people, and for the people will become a reality that will not perish from the earth. We stand in the place of opportunity even as I speak, and those who have held on to the reins of humanity become frightened. They begin to break their own rules and codes of conduct in an attempt to hold on to the power that they have acquired through trickery and deceit. This is like the predators beginning to chew, eat, and feed on themselves when the strength of their bitter cold begins to fade. Spring will arise again, and the earth will arise anew. The ones who would like for us to stay in the tunnel and to work and toil for them would like for us to believe that the light out there, the uncertain brilliance out there, is the headlight of a train. But the light, my friends, the light is the light of wisdom. The light is the light of truth. The light is the light of freedom. It is the light of love for ourselves and for all people. To be a warder of compassion, teach the truth that we speak of in previous lessons in love, knowing that your life, a life of integrity, is the truth. In reality, you have entered into the light of awakening. Now it is time to travel into it more fully. By your example in word and deed, you have the opportunity to plant the seed that will usher in a new world. It will bring us back into balance and bring about peace through one person at a time and one community at a time. Let us enter into the light of awakening together. For in the light we will find joy unspeakable and a place that is ruled by mutual understanding, with the center being unconditional love. And so that is the reading for today. Visit us at www.net.coaching, where you can free yourself from the fear, from the anger, from self-hatred, by partaking of some of the things that we give away or have links to free on our page. You can also go to our Living Now with Passive Income life coaching page, where you can learn how to be free of the pain and suffering that comes from poverty. Thanks for being with us once again. This is the end of section 1 of study number 9, and in a few weeks we will be publishing section 2.